Hey YouTube, welcome back. Now, since the launch of Animal Crossing New Horizons, the community has always been keen to see old features return to the franchise. Whether it's more critters in the form of deep sea creatures that, if you remember back to the beginning of the game, wasn't even a thing for a while, to fan favourite special characters such as Brewster, who finally arrived almost 2 years into the game's life. Many of these features were widely advertised or promoted within update trailers or blog posts when Nintendo announced them as part of the update. But of course, there's always going to be those smaller features and details that get added that for some reason Nintendo decide not to really talk about all that much. Anyway, whilst on the subject of older features returning to the game from previous iterations, there's one activity in particular that was quietly added in the 2.0 update that's surprisingly similar to an old event or activity from previous Animal Crossing games. Now, before we dive into this hidden activity, I'd just like to let you know I've made a Splatoon channel where I'm uploading casual gameplay just for fun, but also covering Splatoon news as and when it's announced. So if you're a Splatoon fan, be sure to check it out. Now, assuming you have pretty much any update since the 2.0 update that released almost 6 months ago now, it's possible for villagers to visit your home either completely unannounced or by pinging you and straight up asking, or to invite you as a player over to theirs for a small visit. In both instances, you can have a lot of cute small talk, admire each other's furniture, and even play a minigame. For those interested, the minigame is high card low card, which sees you go up against the villager by drawing cards. The villager draws a card from 1 to 9 and you have to guess if the second card is higher or lower, and basically if you win you earn a prize. It's a pretty awesome little game, and honestly I don't know why more of these kinds of mechanics don't exist in New Horizons. Anyway, in the instance that a villager is like, hey, walking around outside is lovely, but it would be more lovely if we could relax and chat at my darling home, and inviting you to theirs, you can find yourself with a couple of activities to take part in. The first is something we've already mentioned, the high card low card game that can be played at anyone's house, and by the way, you may find your bestie stopping you leaving until you actually play the game, which is quite funny. But the second is the villager offering you the chance to buy furniture from them that they have out on display. Now, it's pretty simple. Once the invitation to visit their home has been accepted, you just have to wander around and speak with them until they prompt you that they love their furniture but could be persuaded to part with some if you like them too. In this instance, I chose to be really awkward and take Judy's table, leaving her house looking pretty bare, but you can more or less choose any item you like. This will be especially good if one of your villagers has an item you really want but can't find elsewhere, or you accidentally gifted them something they have out on display and want it back, but you get the idea. Now, this is a fairly well hidden activity because you need to be under the right conditions to take part, and of course, like most things in the game, it's almost random and up to the villagers to decide if they want to sell you furniture. But the activity itself is very similar to an event from previous games that I guess you could say was refreshed for its return to New Horizons. Now, back in the Wild World and Let's Go to the City days on the DS and Wii versions of Animal Crossing, there was a regular event called the Flea Market. This is exactly as it sounds, an activity where villagers would allow players to visit their homes and buy some of the items they had out on display. Like in New Horizons, some furniture wasn't for sale and it was typically sold at a much higher value than Nook would sell it for example. Anyway, the cool thing about the Flea Market in previous games is that you could also allow villagers to visit your home and sell your furniture items as well. Anything the villager bought would likely end up in their house the next day, which is pretty cool. Plus, the villagers would pay a premium, and in some instances twice as much as Nook would buy for, so if you had a super rare shark for sale for example, it was a quick way of making bells. Anyway, visiting villagers' homes in New Horizons and the villager allowing you to buy a piece of furniture is pretty much the refreshed version of the Flea Market, except instead of it occurring on the first Saturday and fourth Sunday of every month, it's random on the New Horizons island. Now, if you're wondering why villagers haven't invited you to their house to buy things or randomly stop by yours to play games, it's because it's based on friendship levels and of course random. So the higher the friendship levels with villagers you are, the more likely you'll be to encounter this adorable activity. It's just a shame that although clearly refreshed and returned to New Horizons in a way, it wasn't made into a regular event like in previous games. But what do you think about villager visits or the flea market mechanic? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to know. Thank you so much to all the patrons and channel members for supporting this content, and until next time, have an amazing day, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.